Hey, what's up guys? Sir Emanon here, bringing to you today the long-awaited Penguin Paleofrog deck profile. So yeah, if you guys do recall, I made a promise on Twitter a while ago saying that, if that tweet got 100 likes, then I would play Penguins at a regional. So while this isn't a pure Penguin deck, it is definitely fixated on Penguins, as well as, helping aid it with the frog engine as well as the paleo traps to try and get into toe, which is some theory that I will discuss more in depth in this profile. But yeah, I took it to the Catskill regionals yesterday and I went 4-4-1. So not the greatest record, obviously, because I am playing Penguins after all. But it was actually a blast playing it, and I did face a variety of the meta decks, and I would say it actually performed pretty admirably, considering my expectations going into it. But yeah, if you guys do want to read my specific rounds of the tournament, I will actually be making a tournament report on the Yu-Gi-Oh subreddit, which will be in the description box down below. And if you are coming here from that to watch this profile, then hello, welcome. So yeah, if you are interested in just reading up on how I did, then feel free to check that out in the description as I just mentioned. But we are going to go ahead and get into this deck profile. There is some pretty good theory, and this is actually my second time trying to record this because I spent way too much time talking the first time around. So I'm gonna try to be a bit more concise this time and hopefully get the gist of things going. So first off, we got 3 copies of Penguin Soldier. I'm actually going to lay these ones out because shoutouts to my friend Kevin for hooking me up with the DT Penguin Soldiers. We got the purple one, the light blue one, and the dark blue one here. Super, super awesome. These look awesome. But yeah, Penguin Soldier is like the primary penguin that is, worth building around in my opinion. Obviously, if you guys don't know what this card does, it basically targets up to 2 monsters on the field when it's flipped and bounces them to the hand. So yeah, this card is like the way that you can break a lot of the boards this format, which is pretty cool because it gets around Salamangreat, Balinx, and Zingirsu, and Colossus, and all those cards that have destruction protection. And not a lot of things have targeting protection in this format right now, so Penguin Soldier is actually pretty well positioned. So the reason why I didn't go with the pure Penguin deck is that the Penguins are just too small, man. They just don't have a lot of attack points. And that actually is a problem because if your opponent is allowed to recover for even like 1 turn this format, like you have so much graveyard recursion with like Salamangreats and like Orcus having their entire graveyard as their second hand. If you give those decks like just more time than they need, then they're just gonna run away with the game. And I did build this deck to beat meta, so even though like it's not a pure Penguin deck, I do think that this is like a deck that features a fair amount of Penguins and still can contend with the meta game. So yeah, I decided to just like build around this card in particular because I do think that it is very, very good in terms of like what it does like against the field. And I will say that even though I didn't use its effect as much as I would have liked it to, maybe like 1 out of every 3 games where it was like actually relevant, I did normal summon it quite a bit because it's a level 2 Aqua to make Toad, so that's pretty cool. Next up, we got 2 copies of No Penguin. This card is a recurable body. If you have it in the graveyard and you activate a Penguin Monster's effect, it automatically activates to summon itself to the field. In addition, it also makes any bouncing Penguin effect a banish effect instead. So basically, Penguin Soldier says banish 2 of your opponent's monsters, which is pretty cool. But yeah, No Penguin is how we get board presence, which is pretty nice, as well as just having a fair body on it. It's 1600, which is okay. The reason I cut it from 3 in my other build down to 2 in this one is that it's the most frustrating card in the entire Penguin lineup, in my opinion, to play around. Because I did play a Frog package, and the Swap Frog can send only level 2 or lower Aquas from deck to grave, and this is a level 3. So that is very, very annoying because it wants to be in grave and nowhere else. And sending it to grave by other means like Foolish Burial just minuses you, or like Mathematician just eats up your normal summon when you want to be like just setting Penguin Soldier instead of your normal summoning Mathematician. So like it's a card you want to see, but like not in multiples, and you don't want it to ever clog. But it's not like it's important to have with the Penguin Soldier to make it like good, but it's not important enough to where like you have to have it all the time. So that's why I cut it down to 2. Still very good, but yeah, I think that it performed pretty well. I do think this combo resolved a couple of times like meaningfully, so I'm pretty happy about that. Then I played 1 copy of Puny Penguin. This card if you guys don't know what it does, basically when it's sent to the graveyard from the field after it's been flipped face up, you target a penguin monster besides a copy of Puny Penguin and special summon it either in a face up attack or face down defense position. So what you do with this is that I play a trap card actually called Burst Rebirth that allows you to basically special summon a monster from your graveyard in face down defense position. So like you do that on their end phase, and then during your turn you flip this up. You make link summoning plays, and then ideally if you have like one of each of these in your graveyard, you can like target this with a Puny Penguin to bring it back, and then no penguin will be channeling 2 since the penguin monster is activated, so they both get summoned, and you just get a bunch of link materials and can pop off as much as penguins are allowed to. It's also level 1, which is nice because it's dumpable off Swap Frog, which is why you don't need more than one, because you can dump it off swapped and recover it with Toad, which is like the whole premise of how you can like quote unquote search the penguins. Like you send either of these to grave with Swap Frog and then bring them back off Toad. That's kind of just how the gist of it works. And yeah, like this effect, I'm saddened to say that it didn't actually go off very much. I think only twice during the entire tournament, but it's just funny to have, and I think it's pretty cool. So you notice I didn't play Nightmare Penguin. That card I felt was just an inferior version of Penguin Soldier in the majority of cases. The only time it was superior was when I wanted to specifically target a back row when I already had no Penguin engraved. But as I already mentioned, no Penguin's really, really hard to set up. So I decided it was just ultimately not worth having, an extra normal summon when I could just be setting Penguin Soldier and having it be more effective with it, being more flexible as far as its level and, just wide variety of like applications across the board. So that's it for those penguins. It is only 6, but the entire deck is actually revolved around these cards specifically, and I want to make that very, very clear. So for the other monsters, I played a frog package. Yeah, we'll do it like this. So I played 3 Swap Frog, 2 Ronin Totem, and 3 Dupe Frog. So this is actually like the full frog lineup that most normal Paleo Frog builds run. But they serve a little bit of a different function in this deck. They do all the same things that like a normal Frog Paleozoic deck would do, right? Like so, ideally you open Swap Frog and a Water. Like one of these two would be like, the best case scenario. You make Toad with it, and that's pretty good. You just keep having an advantage generating engine. But Swap Frog, as I already mentioned, can send either of these 2 penguins to the grave, which is really, really, really important because these penguins are otherwise no way searchable by any conventional means. So you really, really are banking on Swap Frog, which is why I opted to just max out on Dupe Frog because, when Dupe Frog is sent from field to grave, obviously it gets to search your Swap Frog. So just getting access to this card ASAP is very, very crucial. I opted for, just double Ronin Totem, which is standard because DD Crow, Shark Cannon, and Call by the Grave are in the format. And it's pretty cool because, like, if they use one of those cards on, like, this, on Ronin Totem, like, you can, like, allow your no penguin to resolve or vice versa. You can just kind of, like, tailor that to whatever you need. The other really funny thing to mention is that with Dupe Frog, you can play kind of funny mind games with it and Penguin Soldier. So if they see you have Penguin Soldier, like, if you set a monster face down, they'll be like, oh, I have to get rid of that with something like Dingusu. So they'll be like, Dingusu send, try and not flip a face up, and then like you get Dupe Frog effect to search, which is pretty funny. So yeah, you can actually play some pretty cool mind games, and that was kind of like what I try to do a lot. I try to like, play like downplay my deck and be like, oh, this deck's so terrible. Which it's not a great deck because I'm playing Penguin cards, but it actually has pretty cool things that it can do, which I'll get into a little bit later as well with the traps, but. Yeah, that's going to be it for the monster lineup. That is, 14 monsters, not too bad. The only spell card I played in the deck was Scapegoat. So yeah, you'll notice that my other deck profile had like a bajillion draw cards. It had 3 Card Demise and 3 Paw Desires and Paw Duality, 2 Duality, and like Upstart Goblin and stuff. But I decided to cut all of that for various reasons. The first is that I discovered very, very quickly that Swap Frog was just too important in this deck to, exclude. I had to put it in, so immediately that just conflicted with Card Demise. If you draw Swap Frog off of Card Demise, it's terrible. And if you draw the 2 of them together in your opening hand, you have to like forsake one to allow the other one to resolve, which like is fine if you can like survive that long, but that means you're playing with a blank card in that hand, and you really again cannot be affording to like have cards that just don't do anything in your hand when you're up against these meta decks. So like you really, really need to have every card be live. I just felt like Card Demise in that aspect was just not the way to go when Swap Frog was so important to resolve every game. Additionally, with Paw Desires, it was when I was closest to actually putting in this deck, but Desires just conflicted a little bit too much in my opinion with Trap Trick, because if you draw a Trap Trick with it or off of the Desires, then like you run the risk of not being able to tutor whatever trap that you need at the time, which is I feel like what Trapchick is designed to do. So I really felt that like Desires wasn't the greatest in that aspect. Like it was nice a lot of the time, but also like kind of it had a double-edged sword to it. And then Extravagance was the other card I considered playing, and I had it in this deck as well. But there were just way too many times where I went into multiple copies of Toad, or even all three, and I used a lot of my extra deck a fair bit. And part of that was, of course, due to Scapegoat, which I prioritized over the Extravagance in the end, as you can see. But additionally, I just felt that, having the link plays, especially like Puny Penguin, were pretty important. And the Frogs and the Paleos can actually spam the board quite well. Like if you get your stuff going, as well as like again Puny Penguin to resolve. Like Extravagance would kind of just invalidate Puny Penguin to exist in my mind because like the entire premise of it was just to continually like link spam. So yeah, I decided to just not bother with any of those draw cards and rely on my advantage generating engine to, instead of being spell cards, be the Frogs, the Toad, getting you Swap Frog to like dump Penguin Soldier, and then like you add back Penguin Soldier, and then like you clear threats. Basically, it's just dwindling resources as opposed to gaining more, or dwindling your opponent's resources as opposed to gaining more of your own, which I felt was like fine enough in theory. So that's what I ultimately went up with, and I'm glad I made that decision because I went into my extra deck a lot. So yeah, moving on to the traps here, there's a lot of them, and I'll explain them quite a bit. So first off, we have 3 copies of Trapchick. Shoutouts to my friend Zaid for letting me borrow the third one. Excuse the proxy. But yeah, Trapchick is really good in this deck. Obviously, not only fetches Paleos, but it fetches the trap that I was talking about earlier, which is, oops, if I can move my cards, which is 2 copies of Burst Reaper. So this is basically the Call of the Haunted, but for face-down defense position. And you have to pay 2,000 life points for it, which is kind of ridiculous. But anyways, it's kind of an old card. But yeah, you can set it off Trapchick, which is why I didn't play 3 of it. And you'll notice I was playing World Legacy Pawns in my other build. And that card is basically just a continuous trap that allows you to flip cards from face-down defense position to face-up attack position during either player's turn. So obviously the theory with that card is you draw it with like a penguin, and then you flip the penguin during their turn and interrupt them that way, which is pretty cool. But the problem is that if you draw multiples of that, it's really not good, whereas drawing multiples of this is like okay, since at the very least it's, not a hard once per turn, and you can revive multiple things and just get value out of it. But also, it doesn't require specifically drawing penguins to work. You can revive like Swap Frog in face-down defense on your opponent's end phase, and then flip it up during your turn. And it actually triggers on any kind of summon, including flip summon. So you can continue to just send stuff off Swap Frog. You can revive like Totally Awesome off of this, which actually happened once. Change it to a Shark Cannon that would have banished it and summoned it to his field. So that's pretty cool. Another thing was what was I gonna say? Like you don't have to draw specifically the penguins is the point. Like you can like obviously use it with the penguins, which is pretty cool. Like use it with Puny Penguin to like link spam on your turn, or like use it with Penguin Soldier to bounce cards on your turn. But like I just felt it was a more versatile card and did more for the deck than what the World Legacy Pawns would do. So yeah, also being searchable by Trapchick is like a huge plus. Then I played 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. It's the only like hand trap in the deck. It was fine. It was like very average. Not great, not terrible. No problems with this card really. Then I did play Paleozoic cards, so I played the triple Olenoides, the triple Canadia, and triple copies of Dino-Miscus. So the first thing to note is I didn't play Morella or Leoncolia. I felt that Morella was not needed in this deck too much because it's not centered around like Paleo specifically. Like the Paleos help you to get Toad, which is really good because like Toad gets you into Swap Frog, which gets you into Penguins, and then Toad adds back the Penguins. So like getting like access to Swap and or Toad is like really needed. So like that's the only way you can actually make the Penguins consistently good without like clogging on them and like trying to just play a really slow game. Like these just accelerate the game to like actually compete with the metagame. But yeah, I felt like Morella was just another one of those cards that like it starts your engine, but like so did these cards, and like that card isn't a defensive trap that like helps hinder your opponent's plays. So I just decided that like I didn't really need to have it in this deck. But yeah, these cards were all really good in their own right. Olenoides is a staple, obviously. Canadia is really good. Even it's okay going second, but especially good going first. And it sets you up for your Penguin Soldier to clear stuff really nicely, which is pretty cool. And Dynamiscus was actually really nice because you can discard like no penguin off of it and get it engraved that way, which is like one of the best ways to use this card. It's also just nice to have going first and going second, which is what I want a lot of my defensive traps to be. Just either help break boards or prevent boards, and this card can do both. So that's really really cool. And I do think the Paleos, while I hesitated to include more of them than just the Olenoides, I ended up running with it, and I don't regret the choice. Very very good cards. Next, more defensive traps. I played 3 copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device. That card is really, really insane. It's probably the best normal trap in my entire deck. Again, good going first and going second, and it's the card that if I didn't need, or if I couldn't afford to use Burst Rebirth, I would always Trap Trick into Compulse. I will say I didn't actually draw Trap Trick very much, so I didn't get to resolve Burst Rebirth that much, which is kind of upsetting. I wish I drew Trap Trick more, but what can you do, right? It's variance. Next up, it's 2 Lost Wind. I had this at 3, but then I cut it down to 2 because I had it at 43 and I wanted to cut it down to 42. I know it's like kind of an arbitrary number, but yeah, this card is a little bit redundant as far as just being more effect negation when you're already having permanence, but like it's recyclable, it's usable in the damage step, which is nice, and it allows you to just get your Paleos going as well. Just more stuff that's like good going first and second. Same deal with Crackdown. I only want to play 2 of it because like it's not a trap trick target, which is maybe an argument to play 3, but like I just decided that this card is vulnerable to spell and trap removal more so than the other cards, and it's also vulnerable to like Salamangreat, Foxy, and stuff. So decided not to use it, but I did decide that like this card was a necessary inclusion if I wanted to make use out of my extra deck, like with Scapegoat and Puny Penguin and stuff, because this allows you to go link climbing, which supplements that theme very well. And I just figured that these would be a nice last minute addition. They were my 41st and 42nd card. The final 3 is 3 copies of Solemn Strike. So this card is maybe not standard in Paleo because you can't chain Paleos to it obviously, but again it's a card that's great going first and going second. It can help break boards, it can help prevent boards. Your opponent often has to push past your other back row, so like when they try and force or stuff, you can just like strike the biggest threat, and then oftentimes like they lose resources, and that's really good. But yeah, Strike, I had no problems with it. Like it's one of the only cards in the entire deck where I was entirely sure from the get-go that I was going to play 3 no matter what in my main deck. So that's gonna be it for the main deck. Like I said, it's 42 cards, but I just felt like the main deck actually ran pretty nicely. And the games that I lost were not due to bricks or the Penguins clogging. The Penguins did very nicely, and I resolved their effects. They did what they were supposed to do, and I'm very happy about that. Obviously, the Frogs put in a lot of the work, but like, the Penguins really helped finish the game, which I think is really awesome. And that's not how I initially would have expected the Penguins to go. But anyway, we're going to move on to the extra deck here. So we have 3 copies of Totally Awesome, the best Xyz monster, one of the best Xyz monsters in the entire game, honestly. Super good. Allows you to get your Penguins online by summoning Swap Frog and getting them back with its other effect. Very crucial, and why I didn't play Extravagance. And I played a copy of Obabinia as well. I actually made this like 2 or 3 times. Yeah, it's just nice to just keep your advantage train going, and like there are times you can just like make Obabinia into Mr. Boy into Toad, which is like always a nice play. But yeah, just like added versatility. The extra deck isn't super tight, so I wanted to just play more stuff. Next, Links. I played a copy of Link Freebo, which is usable via the Scapegoat tokens, as well as Puny Penguin, which is pretty awesome. A copy of Link Spider, which you can use with the Paleozoics, as well as Scapegoat. A copy of Miss Starboy. I actually didn't miss the second one. I was gonna play 2, but it's nice not only because it's generic, like as far as water is being concerned, but it gets you back waters, which is nice in terms of like the whole game plan of getting you back Penguins from grave, which is probably the most easy way to access them. Next, I played IP Masquerena. This card is really nice because it's generic Link 2, and it just allows you to do some interesting stuff. Like if you want to go for like Nightmare plays on your opponent's turn. I never actually did that, but it only really came up a couple of times, and it's because I just needed the downward pointing arrows, and yeah, that's about it. But you can make it with like Scapegoat tokens, you can make it with Crackdown monsters most of the time. It's just really good to have in there. And then the last card that I played that I'll put on screen because I had to give it back because I borrowed it was Security Dragon. I should own this card, I just don't have it for some reason. But yeah, Security Dragon is another generic link too. That you can make with Scapegoat to just help clear boards. Only used it once, but it was really, really nice. So yeah, that's gonna be it for these cards. Next up, we got some Nightmares. We got Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Unicorn. I was gonna play Cerberus, but I decided it just didn't come up often enough. And like I have so much monster removal already with the Penguins as well that I just decided it wasn't needed, and I never really missed it. I never actually used Unicorn in this tournament, but like it's obviously you have to have it. And Phoenix, very very good. I used it like many times with especially Scapegoat. I played Nagirsu the World Chalice Warrior. It's nice when you take a Link monster, like a Link 2 most of the time, because like you can't make IP with it, but you can make Nagirsu with it if you just get another Link. And it helps clear threats, which is pretty cool. So yeah, not really too much to say there. I never used it, but nice to have. I played a copy of Midnight Crusader Avamax. Probably like low-key the best extra deck monster in this deck. It's really hard for decks to out this card. Like obviously not Orcus because they just have Nagirsu. But like even if they do out it, like you just get to exchange a card with it. But in matchups like Striker and like any control matchup, this card is absolutely bonkers. And it's really easy to make off Scapegoat. Like really, really, really easy. I did play Avamax Control in one game against Striker, and he just couldn't clear it, and it kept attacking for massive damage. It was really nice. I played Borosaur, which is how I won pretty much every game. Borosaur Toad was how I won a lot of the games. And the Penguins actually did help to make this a couple times. One or two times that I did resolve Puny Penguin, it did contribute to making this card. So that's pretty cool. And then the last card that I'm sad to say I never got to make, but it is here because of exclusively the Penguins, is Beauregard Dragon. So what this card does, essentially, there's multiple effects in it. Can't be destroyed by card effects. And you can actually target a monster in your opponent's graveyard that was destroyed during this turn in exchange for sending a card from your spell and trap zone to the grave. So you special stuff from something from their grave, but its effects are negated. But the important thing is that as a quick effect that your opponent can't respond to, you can target any monster in the field and change it to face up defense. So yep, you set a Penguin Soldier and you flip it during their turn. So this basically replaces World Legacy Pawns, and you don't have to draw this card. You can just make it whenever. I never made it because like whenever I can make a Link forward, generally I was already winning, so that meant Borosaur. But like it's nice to like this is just a thing that I could have gone for if I wanted to. Maybe one day, but not this time around. So yeah, that's it for the extra deck, and moving on to the side deck. So, oh yeah, we're gonna show off our nifty tokens. These are GOAT tokens. Shoutouts to my YouTuber friend Azalea. Oh, another shout out I forgot to make. Shout out to my friend Anthony Tyler for hooking me up with 2 copies of Burst Rebirth. I mentioned in a group chat, I was like, hey, I'm considering playing this card. Does anybody have these? Probably not, because this card's really old and really not played ever in anything. And he called up Kerwin's Game Store, which was the regional that we played at. And they actually happen to have these on hold for him. So shout out to you, man. You're the MVP. Appreciate it. All right, but now moving on to the side deck here. I played 3 copies of Nibiru, the Primal Being. This is obviously a hedge against the big combo decks. Like you can stop Salamangreat with it. You can stop like Safer Thunder in certain instances. It wasn't the greatest, I will say, because like you have to draw a specific hand with this in order to like capitalize on it. And every time I resolved it, like it was fine, but it wasn't the greatest. I did board it in against Striker Orcust for the sole fact that if you let them get to IP, that means Trizbana on your turn, and Trizbana on your turn basically is just game over. So like I wanted to make sure that I could just clear Trizbana whenever. But like the problem is that like I drew like multiples of this, so like it wasn't very good. That could just be, you know, hand variants, but I would maybe play it going forward, but I'm not 100% sure on this card. But it's a very good card to be certain. You know, it defines a lot of our format actually, even if it's not being played very often in a lot of decks. I played 3 copies of Dino Wrestler Pankratops as a hedge against other control matchups and a way also to beat IP. So like if they don't have Gizmek, then basically you can summon Pankratops and declare that you're trying to end the main phase, and then like they have to IP there, which means that like you get to like either beat over the Trizbana, or if they like use symbol for Dingirsu with the Babble up to try and send this, you just chain it and then you know, send or destroy the Babble. That way like the harp that they have engraved, you know, either has to be used in response to Pank, or just not used at all. In which case, like then you can just freely set your back row and not have to worry about the Trisbane. That was my theory on this card, at least in that matchup. But you know, it actually never really came up in that specific way because I dealt with IP in other ways. I did play a Striker Orcus matchup, and that match was kind of interesting, but yeah, I lost that one. But anyways, yeah, this card's also really good against other control decks. Obviously, just very, very good going second. Not much to say there. I'll move these like this. There we go. All right, next up, we got 3 copies of Heavy Storm Duster. This card didn't really go into very much. It's obviously a trap trick target, but I didn't really want to main it because there's just not too much back row in the format right now. It's awesome to trap trick in the end phase for this card, but like, you know, wasn't really that needed that much. I did board it in against the Striker matchup, and I didn't see it, so, you know, not too much to say, but I would still play it. I played 3 evenly matched, also for control decks, and just, you know, I wanted to play board cards like Nibiru and evenly matched, and, you know, pretty good stuff. I did resolve it, and it was nice. Yeah, not much else to say. And then finally, 3 copies of Solemn Judgment in the side deck as a hedge against the cards that I lost to all weekend, or all day long, which were Twin Twister, Red Reboot, and Evenly Matched. And the only time I saw this card against like those cards was when he had Evenly and Twin Twister. So that kind of sucked a lot, but I board this in every time in a sided game going first. But like I did want to main this card, but I decided to take it out because it was just not great going second. And I felt like this card was just more important for stopping the side deck cards as opposed to actually trying to stop engine cards. I only stopped like an engine card with this card once. And it did win me the game there, but it was in a sided game where I would have like held it for the Twin Twister if he had it, or what have you. But yeah, honestly, all my losses, I'm going to give you a spoiler right now if you haven't read the Reddit post yet, but just going to be a spoiler. All my losses, I kid you not, were to Reboot, Twin Twister, or Evenly, like straight up, like not even kidding. So that's not even the Penguin's fault. That would have been there if I was playing like any other control deck. So I don't even feel too badly about that. Like maybe I should play more insurance, like, you know, Waking the Dragon or Dark Bribe or something. But like, yeah, like I lost to like Evenly and Reboot specifically a lot too. So I mean, you know, what can you do, right? It's part of playing a trap deck, and it's part of playing, you know, this, you know, style of Yu-Gi-Oh in 2019. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this deck profile. I really did enjoy playing this deck, like a lot more than maybe I should have. It was a blast to play, like really, and I did get to play against Triff Gaming too. If you want to read that matchup, definitely, definitely go check out that Reddit post because that one was a doozy. One of the best matches I played in a long time, actually, and Triff's actually a really nice guy in person. If you guys don't know. You know, he plays up a character on his stream and his YouTube channel, but in person he's a pretty chill guy, and I really enjoyed playing against him, actually. I actually got to meet a couple of you guys at Catskill, so if you did say hi to me, thank you very much. Shout out to you guys. I still, like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I'm just gonna, like, go on a side tangent a little bit here. Like, it's kind of interesting, because, like, I'm a pretty small Yu-Gi tuber still. Like, you know, the Yu-Gi tubing community isn't that big compared to other communities on YouTube, but I still think that, relatively speaking, like comparative to a lot of those other people, I'm pretty small. But it is pretty nice just to, you know, have people walk up to me and say like hi. And the funniest thing is when people recognize me by my voice, which I think is pretty cool. Because I used to be really self-conscious of my voice and thought it was terrible. But I really actually have come to appreciate my voice because of how many of you guys actually recognize me by it, which is pretty cool. But anyways, I'm talking about nothing anymore, so I'm just going to end the video right here. Thank you guys so much for watching this deck profile and watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comment section down below. Also, if you want to, you can subscribe for more competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. I know this isn't the most competitive deck, but moving forward into 2020, I am going to be like very, very competitive as a player, as, you know, I try and grind a little bit more towards Nat season to try and do as well as I can this year, as well as like YCS Hartford, which I'll hopefully be attending. But yeah, if you want to, you can follow me on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch. All 3 links are going to be in the description as always. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will catch you in the next video. See you guys.